On the Gamebridge Ball State Cardinals Sports Network from Learfield. Welcome to This Week in Ball State Sports, a Ball State athletics podcast, highlighting the Cardinals athletic teams and administration each week. Presented by Gamebridge. Here's the voice of the Cardinals, your host, Mick Tidrow.
Hey, Ball State Cardinals fans, we are back for another year of This Week in Ball State Sports, the podcast. We appreciate everybody's support from last year and can't wait to have this year's show drop every single week. We're changing days, though. It's Wednesdays at 10 a.m. we'll drop. And also once a month, coming up here soon, we'll have a video audio element to it. So we'll have a vodcast style, partnering with our friends at Ball State Sports Link. They'll have new podcast studios. Once a month, we'll go over there, do a video audio podcast. So that's some big news this year. Don't forget, fans, also drop in your questions to ballstatesportspodcast@gmail.com. That's ballstatesportspodcast@gmail.com. We'll read some questions every week. We'll also have some giveaways tied in, courtesy of Game Day Spirit within all that for people who do enter questions. And we'll keep you posted on giveaway recipients as well. But there's a lot going on. 100th Ball State football season. There's been some new facilities, upgrades, and projects working on. We'll get to all of that and much more here on This Week in Ball State Sports. And we're here to start breaking it down with Director of Athletics, Jeff Mitchell. Jeff, appreciate you joining us for the start of the academic year. Welcome back to campus, everybody, and hope you had a great summer.
Great summer, Mick. It's a pleasure to be with you. Season 2, Episode 1 of the Ball State Sports Podcast. It was a good summer. We accomplished a lot. You know, the summer in the intercollegiate athletics world is less heavy on events, but it's pretty intense from a planning standpoint. So we're really excited to get the 2024-25 season underway. A couple of things that we upgraded over the summer is the new lower bowl seating in the arena, and we can talk more about that. And we also are in the process of constructing a brand new track at the Briner Sports Complex where track and field competes. And so on the heels of the couple of years of really strong success that team has enjoyed, we're excited to be able to provide them with a brand new surface on which to compete.
How about you personally? How was your summer?
I was equal parts busy with the planning process and equal parts taking the time enjoying the summer with my family. So I got to play a lot of sports with the kids, and my wife and I had a couple little trips to get away. The kids spent a good bit of the summer at summer camp, so we had a great time, and it was fun to be in Muncie with a year under our belts and to really just enjoy summertime here in East Central Indiana, which was very pleasant.
It is also excruciatingly warm right now, too. I'm not going to lie. Like we're at the end of August. It usually gets warm, but I feel like we had a dip there where you could go out and play baseball at 75 degrees and you were good, but now it's like 92, 93. I'm complaining. I have issue with that.
This is fun for me that you're complaining on a hot day. I've experienced numerous hot days in my life, Mick, and today is going to be just fine. We're going to make it, and it'll be my turn to complain when winter rolls around.
Yeah, we'll have another winner for Jeff coming through here soon before we know it. We'll talk with Jeff about some of those projects that he mentioned with the Wortham projects, the track and field as well. Also have head coach Mike New, Ball State football, joining us. A great conversation with him, previewing the season, looking at training camp, looking at the summer, and a ton of content with him coming up. But Jeff, I want to go right into what you were saying about the track and field success. We've seen what they've done the last few years. For them to have a new track come in is a statement for what that program has done the last couple of years, and then also what Coach Wheatley and that staff want to do in the future.
Well, Coach Wheatley continues to produce results, and he develops our young women. They're excellent athletes, and they buy into the way he coaches and the way he develops sprinters, the way he develops distance runners and the field athletes. So I was just really proud of that program, and in particular proud of Janelle Rogers, who represented our country at the Thorpe Cup in July and competed at the Olympic trials trials in Eugene, Oregon, prior to the Olympics. What an exceptional athlete she is. The definition of the Ball State student athlete. She's a terrific student in interior design, carries a 3.94 GPA, and then is, of course, a three-time All-American. It doesn't get much better than that. And we have the good fortune to see her compete again in indoor track and field this year, so we're excited about the year that she'll have coming up. But for the program as a whole, to be able to put a new surface in for those guys to run on, and for Coach Wheatley to continue to sell and promote the program the way he's doing is really important to us. And we've had, not including the track upgrades, but over the last year alone, we invested north of $3.3 million to upgrade or enhance facilities that have a 12 program impact. So 12 different programs benefited from some upgrades to the various facilities, running the gamut of playing surface enhancements to new graphics in locker room spaces or in common areas, to new video boards, whatever the case may be. Over a 12 sport program spread, we were able to invest north of $3.3 million. So we're excited about that. Of course, that does not include the track. So we'll start counting again now in the new season, but really excited about that improvement.
You mentioned the new season. We'll get to basketball and the Worthen setup here in a minute, but new season, Ball State football celebrates its 100th season. There's a lot going on this year, a jam-packed 5 home game slate from an event standpoint, from what's going on there. Also some enhancements around game day, but we'll get to that in a few minutes. Just starting off with the 100th season of Ball State football. This is an awesome time to celebrate the program's history and to get this thing rolling here in a week and a half.
Yeah, it's a big deal to celebrate 100 years of anything, and particularly when you have so much history to review and to celebrate. Shout out to Kevin Messenger, who is our Assistant Athletics Director for Communications. He put together a yard-by-yard, so 100 yards in a football field, yard-by-yard history of Ball State football, representing each year of the program's existence. And it's really fascinating to go and read all the little nuggets and the milestones that have been achieved over the course of 100 years of Ball State football. So do yourself a favor, and if you're listening to this, go and check out the Ball State Athletics website, the football page. You can click on the information for the 100 years of Ball State football and read all about it. And we're going to be doing things throughout the course of the season to celebrate 100 years of Ball State football. We're going to select a 100-year team. I believe that's right. I probably didn't get the exact terminology right.
All-century team.
All-century team. That's well said. So we'll be picking that. We'll have a neat user experience through the an interface on an app that will go live soon, where you can pick that all-century team. Really excited about that. That was a collaboration with folks on campus. So we're trying to do things that integrate the campus community too, as we celebrate 100 years of Cardinal football.
Charlietown, obviously, still going to be in full effect. We'll have the Cardinal Walk still in effect as well, but there are some new plans around concessions and game day atmosphere that also enhance the product and enhance Ball State football experiences.
Yeah, some of the feedback that we received last year is, maybe concessions can do some different things. And so we've listened, and we're going to have food trucks at Gate 5, which is on the southeast side of the stadium.
You're going to have to get me to the booth somehow, because those food trucks is probably where I'm going to be at pregame, so I'm going to need somebody to actually get me up to the booth on time.
We'll do that. We'll have a special arrangement for you to get to the booth. But I don't blame you. We may have to do pregame interviews at the food trucks, and then
I'm in.
Booth. Yeah. So we'll figure that out. That's a note that I'll put down to address the logistics of getting you to the booth, but us to be sure that we can partake out of those food trucks before the game. So the food trucks will be a hit. It'll be near the student section. It'll be easy to get to. You have a great vantage point of the game there. The team runs out from the practice facility onto the field as they start the game. So it'll be a cool opportunity for particularly our young Cardinal fans to maybe get a fist bump or a high five as the guys run onto the field. And we'll have revamped concessions in the main concourse. There's new signage everywhere in the stadium, wayfinding. You'll have clear signage that suggests where you can pay if you just are using a credit card or if you're using cash. The alcohol sales that we do will be at the same point of sale as food, so now you don't have to stand in two different lines to get your concessions. So if you want to get a hot dog and an adult beverage, you can do that at one point of sale as opposed to standing in line for a hot dog and then standing in line for a beverage. We will have the Chirp Chirp Cherry cocktail on sale in a beverage cart, in addition to other points of sale within the venue, and the Charlie Cream Ale will be available as well in that beverage truck or beverage cart. So I'm really excited about these enhancements to the facility, and I think our fans will appreciate that just as they navigate inside Schumann Stadium, and certainly will welcome feedback for the experiences that our fans are having. But we're really excited about September 7th as we kick off the season against Missouri State, and our fans will have an opportunity to experience these new enhancements and celebrate Ball State football.
And rumor has it there's going to be some former football players that'll be around during part of the celebration of the 100 years of football. So keep an eye on for that. Keep an eye out for some really cool things coming up in addition to what Jeff had mentioned as well. That news is out, and you can check all those details out on ballstatesports.com. Article that lists what Jeff was talking about and then some other things in detail as well. You said it, September 7th, Missouri State, Ball State football, last team to kick off in FBS. We have to wait a little bit longer, but Jeff, I think the payoff is going to be worth it when Ball State football takes the field on September 7th.
Yeah, it will be worth it, and it's a neat distinction that we have to wait an extra week. Of course, just for those of you who like explanations of things that happen, we were slated to host in week 1 against Army. Army joined the American Athletic Conference, and as a result, they had to drop 8 of their games on their schedule because Army was an independent, and which meant they had to schedule all of their games, all 12 of their games, so there was no conference alignment. When they joined the American, though, they joined a conference with 8 built-in games, and so they had to drop those 8 games. And we were one of those. We enforced the contract, so there was a little bit of a penalty that Army had to pay to get out of the deal. And then we had to go find an opponent. And football scheduling is done many, many years in advance, sometimes 7, 8, 9, 10 years in advance. So when we were given notice that Army was going to get out of our contract with them to play, this was back in December of this past year, that left us with very little time to try to find a 12th opponent. And unfortunately, we were unable to find a home game, and so that's where the Vanderbilt game got scheduled. But we're really excited about this coming season, and as a result, we're not playing in week 1, but we will play in week 2, and we'll still have our allotment of bye games over the course of our off weekends over the course of the season. But the season's here. We're ready.
What have you seen from the football team, training camp, summer workouts, spring, all the way back a few months ago that has this team ready to go for September 7th?
I'm encouraged by what I've seen in camp, and I think Coach New and his staff have done a remarkable job of getting our guys prepared. Coach New mentioned in an all-staff meeting recently that we're bigger, faster, stronger, and I would agree with that based on what I've seen. I think it's been fun to watch the guys develop. They had a great spring, and then now that's carried over into the summer component of the football training season. Now we get into fall camp. Camp's over. School started, and now we're in our regular rhythm. I talked to Coach New earlier in the week, and he said we're full speed ahead with game prep now for Missouri State. So there's great energy at practice. Mick, I've been to every practice, maybe with the exception of 3, at least just checking in at certain points, and get more encouraged and excited by the day.
There's a lot of buzz, a lot of energy, like you said, and having some extra time to play week one, your week one game, instead of having to play week one, gives it extra time for some rest, recovery, but also installs and things like that. So as much as everybody wants Ball State football to be playing this Saturday, there's also a benefit to having that extra week going into your first game.
Yeah, there is. And so we get to install a little bit longer, so the guys will be theoretically a little bit more advanced when it comes into executing things that we want to do, and it allows them the opportunity to acclimate a little bit more to the changing weather. For whatever reason, it's gotten warmer the last couple of weeks, which would be good. I mean, we open up at home on September 7th, and we travel to Miami, Florida in week 3, which is our week 2, and we're almost assured that it'll be hot and humid in Miami, so we'll be prepared for that. But the guys have been preparing diligently for the start of the season, but they're ready to play somebody. I promise you that.
They are ready to play somebody that is not a teammate and go hit a different opponent. Jeff, before we go off of football and on to soccer coming up here, is there anything else you want to say about football 100 season before September 7th?
Well, we are really excited about the season, so we encourage our fans to buy those season tickets, buy single game tickets, show up and cheer on our Cardinals. Our guys are pretty excited about the fact that the season starts in a couple of weeks, and we want you to experience what we're doing. And Schumann Stadium is a neat atmosphere for football, we've got some fun things planned, and 100 years of football to celebrate as well. So look forward to seeing you at Schumann Stadium.
All right, go get your tickets, ballstatesports.com. There's different ticket packages. There's also suites and premium seating still available for the season, so make sure to check that out on ballstatesports.com or just Google search ballstatesports.com. Jeff, looking at Ball State soccer, they've already played a couple of matches. Like, they were one of the first teams on campus, one of the first teams to play in action across the department. Defeated Purdue Fort Wayne 4-0 in their season opener. They're already looking at match number 3 coming up.
Yeah, play at Butler on Thursday night, and coming off a tough loss to Indiana, where gave up 2 early goals and then rallied for 1 and played really well, but just not enough to either earn a draw or win that ball game. But I'm excited about this team as they continue to grow and develop over the course of the season. So Coach Reif has done a remarkable job assembling a roster, and I really think that they will hit their stride in the next few matches, and certainly as we get into conference play. So looking forward to watching them continue to develop. They play a fun brand of soccer, and Coach Reif has them ready. And they've had a little bit of a gap since their last match. So to prepare for Butler, they've been focused on that match, and the season will unfold from there. But looking forward to watching those talented young women compete.
Talking about the season beginning to unfold, Ball State women's volleyball. The men's and women's volleyball, awesome TerraFlex court that just was installed, and that is a complete game changer for these two programs. And from a recruiting standpoint, from a playing standpoint, from a health standpoint, like that TerraFlex court is everything.
And we didn't mention that out of the gate for facility improvements, but I guess we can count that as a fall facility enhancement as opposed to a summer facility enhancement. So yes, we have installed a brand new state-of-the-art TerraFlex flooring system for men's and women's volleyball. That is a removable surface, so you can lay it down for volleyball matches, and then you can take it up It does not impact the hardwood in any stretch for basketball. So for the vast majority of our volleyball seasons, you'll see that floor down. Now, I will say there'll be some times where logistically it'll be impossible to put down based on a timing system with basketball games. So it may not be there for every game, but we are really excited about this flooring system. The student athletes are overjoyed by being able to play on it. It does have an impact on the knees. It for those that dive to play defense in volleyball, which I think is a courageous act in and of itself, it's a smoother type of experience when you dive on the TerraFlex flooring system as opposed to that basketball hardwood. But it's beautiful. If you haven't seen pictures of it, it's a gorgeous court that really pops when you take into the consideration the red of the seats within the arena, and then you have this black outline with the lightly stained main floor of the TerraFlex system. So really excited to host a regular season match, which is coming up at the end of September. And in the meantime, volleyball is going to be on the road for the first several weekends of this new year. Road Warriors, as we're calling them right now.
Yeah, just one home non-conference match for head coach Kelly Miller Phillips in that women's volleyball program. You said it's September 20th against Wright State, but that program has been ready to go. There's an influx of new talent, but there's also, Jeff, a returning core that helps this team put themselves in a really, really strong position going into the year.
Well, last year they got off to a slow start and rebounded during conference play, and I hope that we see a strong start to begin with this year. But I was impressed by the way we played in an exhibition match over the weekend against Indiana State. Coach Miller Phillips has done a remarkable job in her tenure here and continues just to develop winners. And so I think the core group that we have here, as you mentioned, Mick, is experienced. And we had a couple of transfers in. We've got some new faces in as freshmen that are really talented that will play a lot early on. And so I'm excited to see them gel together. I think they've had a really strong few weeks of camp as the season begins this weekend. They're going to play in the Florida Atlantic Tournament, so down in Boca Raton, and we'll play Seton Hall, Bryant, and then end the tournament against the Owls of Florida Atlantic University.
Field hockey hosts a couple of matches coming up this weekend. St. Francis on Friday and then Sunday against Stanford. They've had some scrimmages, exhibitions, but their season begins Friday.
Begins Friday. It's been fun to watch them compete in a couple of their scrimmages and exhibitions. Looking forward to what Coach Caitlin Walsh has in store for the season. She's encouraged about her team. St. Francis will be a tough opponent to open. And then, of course, it's unique to host Stanford coming in from the West Coast for field hockey. They've got a good field hockey program out there in Palo Alto, and looking forward to seeing them play this Sunday. But Coach Walsh has a lot of energy, and she's got a really talented team of young athletes. I continue to be so amazed to watch them play. Field hockey's a new sport to me. I never have seen it live until I got here to Muncie Mix. So it's different, right? You're carrying a weapon, but sometimes your body has to contort in order to strike it. And it's been fun to watch them play.
You would know about that experience now because of a promotional video that went out and how tough field hockey is.
Yes. Mick, I'll let you describe that.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the video, we had Jeff dress up in Charlie Cardinal and go out and participate in some practices at some of our sports. And Jeff had an awesome time, and he had a chance to play field hockey. So if you want to see that video, check out the Ball State socials, but awesome content. President Mearns also makes an appearance. Really good stuff. You had something.
Well, let me tell you this, Mick. This is why today, as you referenced the heat outside, this is why it's not that hot. Because let me tell you something. In that Charlie Cardinal outfit, that's a different level of heat.
You're built different. I would rather take a cold tub.
It was an experience and a relief coming out of that suit, especially after playing field hockey.
Well, cross country has to run in this heat, and their season's beginning here soon too, Jeff. We talked about track and field and the new track coming in, but Coach Wheatley also really excited about his cross country group that starts here soon.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing them run. That's a team that doesn't get a lot of fanfare just because they train early in the morning sometimes, and they're running on courses that are not close to campus. But I'm excited about their development and look forward to seeing them compete throughout the course of the fall.
All right, Jeff, we have one more thing, was the reseat in Worthen Arena. We have the new seats coming in, and that's a big deal to help enhance the environment inside Worthen Arena. But just from your perspective, how does that change the fan experience?
Well, the seats are nice, and they're sturdy. You're not going to slip out of them. They are safe. We're not in any danger of having parts break while you're sitting in it. The platforms on which the seats rest are wider, and so you have a much easier time to maneuver to your seats, to exit, to enter into that seating area. There's handrails for you to hold on to. There's cup holders, so you can place your drinks in those cup holders. And the armrests are really nice. It's just a really nice way to watch a college basketball or a college volleyball game or even a gymnastics meet, and we're really excited about it. Again, this project was a necessity because of the failing parts of the old bleacher system that were original to Worthen, and unfortunately because the new bleacher system did not have the same amount of seats as the old system, we had to execute a reseat process, and that has gone well, and I think people will be really pleased when they come to Worthen, to whether it's to watch volleyball or watch basketball, to see the noticeable improvement in that seating system. And there are many of you that have not received phone calls yet on the basketball season ticket front for that reseat, but our ticket office is methodically going through that list. It's going really well, and we expect that process to be complete over the course of the next 3 weeks or so. When there are, if you do have questions, please contact the ticket office, but just note that the ticket office is calling people every day and getting people seated and getting excited about the season. And in some future podcast, we'll talk about men's and women's basketball, Mick, but they had a tremendous summer, both of those programs. Really excited to talk more about them and the anticipation of the upcoming seasons for both those programs, because it's going to be fun in Worthen.
Like Jeff mentioned, 888-BSU ticket. You can call that number if you have any questions about reseating, or get your Ball State tickets across all of our sports. All right, Jeff, we've covered a lot. It's almost a 30-minute podcast, which to start off Season 2, Episode 1 is a great start. But before we let you go, is there anything else you want Ball State fans to know?
Well, I continue to be grateful for the level of support that the community demonstrates toward Ball State University, toward Ball State athletics. I'm really excited about the upcoming season. We've got a great collection of coaches throughout our department. We certainly have 450 of the best student athletes around. As a matter of fact, I want to end with this, Mick. Yesterday we found out that Ball State Athletics won the Mid-American Conference's Institutional Achievement Award for the 23-24 academic athletic year. And that Institutional Achievement Award is for academic excellence. So our student athletes had the highest GPA across all of our sports in the entire league, and our APR of a 992 out of 1,000, which is extraordinary, was the highest in the league as well. So we've won that award now 2 out of the last 3 years. It's only the 4th time that we've won it in Ball State's athletics history since we've been in the MAC since 1973. But I'm thrilled that we earned that award. I'm so proud of our student athletes. I'm grateful for our coaches for enforcing or reinforcing the ideals of academic excellence, and certainly our student athlete support services group led by Laura Hillenberg. Just a tremendous job by that staff to continue to promote academic excellence and to put our student athletes in the position to be successful. Our student athletes are leaders and winners, and they represent our campus really well.
Well, Jeff, I think that's a perfect way to end this segment on our first podcast episode. Thank you for joining us as always. We're excited to talk with you next week and appreciate you as always.
Thanks, Mick. Go Cards.
Hear every big play, every touchdown, and every win.
Breaks outside the numbers left. He jumps for the end zone. He's in. Touchdown, Cardinals.
We fly with the Cardinals. Every moment that matters all season long is right here. The Cardinals open at home against Missouri State. Join us Saturday, September 7th. Our coverage begins at 1, right here on your home for Ball State Cardinals football from Learfield.
Welcome back into the first episode of Season 2 of This Week in Ball State Sports. We're back. Ball State football has to wait just a little bit longer for its first game. Technically not playing until Week 2 against Missouri State. But hey, we have Coach New here joining us on the first episode of This Week in Ball State Sports. Coach, first and foremost, appreciate you joining us, and we can't wait for September 7th.
Great to be here. I can't wait for September 7th either. Team 100. Obviously, it's been exciting so far since the start of camp, but obviously still grinding every day, and got a lot of work between now and then still ahead of us.
Coach, we'll talk about a lot of stuff. Rule changes in college football. We'll talk about your offense, your defense, new coordinators. But you said the word training camp. That's where I want to start off with this. A long training camp started July 31st. You were able to go through 2.5+ weeks of what this team can look like. Overall, how would you assess how training camp went?
A really great job by our team, by our players, by our coaching staff, support staff, really just taking full advantage of 2.5 weeks of all football where, that's the only thing they need to be focused on each and every day. We had a lot of moving parts during the off season, and so to see it all come together here when training camp finally started, just a lot of good work and a lot of good things off the field as well for 2.5 weeks, which obviously created a lot of excitement and buzz in our building.
You said a lot of moving parts. What were those?
Well, as you and I both know now, the dynamics of athletics have changed with the transfer portal. So we had a lot of key additions that, we had some key additions way back during the January, cycle leading up to the start of the spring semester. But a lot of those guys still had to finish academic responsibilities at their previous institution. So when I say a lot of moving parts, we really got our whole team finally here on campus, right around Father's Day. And so we had about a month and a half of summer workouts remaining at that point in time before camp started. So on my end, not knowing some of those guys were not with us during spring practice to see what they look like on the field, being able to get to training camp 2.5 weeks, finally got everybody here. We're in pads, being able to see some of those additions to our program on the field together. Those are the moving parts more than anything else.
We saw a roster of players on the spring game, but then you get to training camp and that roster is completely different. How did you see the growth from the team in that area and just having your full squad now available in camp?
Yeah, like you said, totally different. The roster that we took the field with in spring practice and the roster we took the field with in training camp, a lot of different names on there. So, our staff did such a great job during the recruiting process, whether it was high school young men, whether it was young men from the transfer portal. Obviously, it's got to be guys that fit what we're looking for in terms of what they bring to this table, skill set wise, but also right kind of guys, character wise, work ethic, and so far that's something that I've been very proud and to be able to see that on display each and every day. Love the young men that we've added to our program, and even though obviously we still got just under 2 weeks here before game number 1, like where we're at as a team right now.
Talk about the transfer portal. Starting on the offensive end, there are several key pieces that can come in and make an impact. Braden Sloan, Justin Bowick on the offensive end starting off there. Those are just two of the names that kind of jump off the page when you look at transfer portal additions.
Yeah, no question offensively. If you look at those guys offensively, we return more starters offensively this year than we do defensively. Fired up to have 4 returning starters on the offensive line. That's awesome to have that kind of experience there. Caden Samanzas obviously played in 4 games a year ago before the red shirt. You mentioned Braden Sloan, being an FCS All-American, coming in here from Eastern Kentucky. That running back room is a really good room in terms of depth. Very excited about that. You mentioned Justin Bowick. He has been a great addition. Here's a guy with unbelievable size that also has great speed. So his skill set will be utilized heavily. And obviously, you return a guy like Ty Robinson, who missed a big chunk of the year last year due to injury after the Georgia game. So, and Keon Magwood, had his best year last year as a Cardinal, and he took that into the offseason and only worked harder. And so I feel good about where we're at, and obviously those two key additions from the transfer portal, and certainly Tanner making the decision to come back here. That Tanner obviously feels strongly he's one of the best tight ends in the country here, and so he's had a great camp, he's had a great offseason, and he's done a great job growing too as a leader.
It's almost as if with Ty Robinson playing a game and a half last year, he comes in. That's a huge addition for a whole season to have Ty, bring in Justin, have Keon. That wide receiver room paired with more depth outside of those three guys seems like it's prime for a lot of success, especially with a quarterback like Caden ready to go here year two.
There's no question. We feel good about the weapons that we've been able to surround Caden with, because as you know, you can't do it all by yourself. So really feel strongly about the weapons that we have in place. You mentioned the depth. This is the best depth that we've had at wide receiver since I've been here. We got 6, 7, 8 guys that we feel strongly can step in and play, and they've shown that on the field each and every day during training camp. So this is a really good depth there, really good depth at the running back position. Still working to build some depth here with the next 2 weeks at offensive line and how that'll shake out. Obviously, let's not forget about Christian Abney at the tight end position. That he played in a lot of games a year ago as a true freshman. Has only gotten bigger and faster and stronger this offseason. He'll continue to have a great role for us. So it's been a lot of talk about it, a lot of moving parts, but really feel like we're at a good spot there offensively, and making sure Coach Dan Wenger and the strength and conditioning staff deserve a ton of credit, because our whole football team only got bigger, only got faster, and only got stronger if you look at the numbers that were put up during this offseason. So credit to Coach Wenger and to his strength and conditioning staff.
There's a lot there that I want to unpack that you just said. We'll start off with Dan, because that's where you left off with the strength and conditioning. You've preached that throughout the entire training camp. If we're bigger, we're faster, we're stronger. A lot of credit to Dan and his staff. What on a day-to-day have you seen Dan do that makes this team what you just said it is?
One thing that's very unique in terms of the role that Coach Wenger's in, going back to his playing days, he played in the trenches, one of the toughest spots, the toughest spot to play in our game, whether it's O-line, whether it's D-line. And so when you're training the entire football team with that kind of toughness and that kind of edge, I think that in and of itself has been such a huge advantage for us, and I think our guys have all embraced that. Just to see the way they attack the lifting sessions in the weight room, to see the way they attack the conditioning sessions when we did that all off season, and even post practice. Now the days, obviously you still want to have a good balance here, making sure we get our lifts in during training camp, making sure we have a good lifting schedule here going into the season, and the mindset of our guys still when they're getting those workouts in, those are pretty tough. They're pretty tough workouts, and demanding to some degree, but that's going to pay off for us that way. So I've just been super proud of Dan taking on this role and what he's done, and he's worked tirelessly, not only with the strength and conditioning piece of it, but the nutrition. What can we do from a nutrition standpoint to make it better for our guys? And he's worked tirelessly along with Hayden Meister and trying to make sure that we can do the best possible for our guys in terms of feeding them and making sure we're getting them where they need to be.
Nutrition's one of those big open conversations that every program has to have, right? Because of so many different players you have to make sure are at tip-top shape. How are you in Ball State football getting to that point where you feel comfortable?
Yeah, it's a daily grind. We spend time on it every single day. As a general statement here, when you're at our level, and we're going to continue to get younger as a program with the way the portals, the way the portal is right now. Obviously, all the Power 5 programs are trying to, for lack of a better word, they're trying to poach players, the best players from our level, from the Group of 5 programs, and so you're continuing to bring younger players in. You're continuing to bring new faces in. We have 44 new faces here to Ball State when training camp kicked off. A lot of freshmen were in that number. A lot of guys in the transfer portal were in that number. So the only way to develop them faster is to feed them better. And so that's where nutrition ties into it. We grind at it every day. What can we do here at Ball State to make sure that's as good as it can be?
That has to be a literal everyday conversation with your staff, right?
It really is, between, I try not to get the the full-time coaching staff involved in it as much. They got enough responsibility in terms of game plan, enough responsibility in terms of practice planning, enough responsibility in terms of development between Dan Winger and Hayden and myself and Chase Britt and his staff. Like, there's daily, weekly meetings here taking place about what can we do from a nutrition standpoint. How can we stretch the dollar as much as we can possibly stretch the budget that we have is the budget that we have, but what can we do creatively to stretch that dollar as far as we can to feed our guys better, because it's important when you're trying to develop a 300-pound man. It takes a lot of calories, and it takes the right kind of calories, so we got to surround those guys with the best food options that we possibly can.
You mentioned feeding the 300-pound guys up front. Let's talk about that. You mentioned the 4 starters coming back. That's 117 career starts for some of these guys up front. How vital is that to be able to set the tone in week 1 with that group?
Well, that's huge. You know, when you have a group of guys up front that have played a lot of college football, and a lot of college football they played together as a unit there. So they know each other, the different strengths, weaknesses, areas that they need to improve on coming out of the previous season. That's awesome, because you don't have to preach to those guys what the speed of the game is all about. They know that. When you're a young player, the first thing that shocks you is the speed of the game. You know, you can talk about it even if you come from a great high school program and you played against great competition every week. Still, the speed of the game is a big adjustment, because you know those are things you just can't teach when it comes to practice. Those are things you just can't teach unless you get yourself into a game and you get yourself into that kind of environment. So, very thankful to have those guys. Obviously, of course, you know, Ethan Crow and Damon Kaler weren't with us during spring practice, but that's about the time when both those young men made the decision they wanted to come back, take advantage of their final year of college football. Obviously, we welcome them back with open arms. They do things the right way. They're high-character guys, have always dominated and done things the right way academically, and they've been great football players for our program. So it's been great to have those guys back here, and it's been great to see that group gel and continue to put it on the field every day in practice. And obviously excited about where things stand with that group.
You get the phone call. Ethan Crow says, "Hey, I'm coming back." Damon calls you, "Hey, I'm coming back." What's your immediate reaction to be able to get those two guys back?
Well, listen, it's moving parts, because you got to go back to the scholarship allocation sheet and how can we make that work, because, you know, we had started the process of moving on full speed without those. Obviously, those scholarships were going to somebody else. So, you know, there is some things that have to be done. There was a few young men that signed with us that we ended up gray shirting, so we delayed their entrance here to Ball State until January, because obviously, you know, to be able to add 2 young men like Damon, like Ethan back into the mix here, that just doesn't happen every day, and you just can't attack and go find that kind of experience in the transfer portal. So we had to make some adjustments, a couple of tough phone calls, but at the same time, our staff during the recruiting process, I try to communicate with the young men that are high school players, at least presenting the scenario like, listen, we are 100% committed to you, but there also could be a scenario where there could be a gray shirt, scenario as well. So we try to be transparent. We try to be upfront. Obviously, it's more and more challenging these days, but the most important thing is being honest and open, with all those young men in recruiting. And listen, it's business now, and so nowadays when you're in college football with all the transfer portal with the NIL, it's become more like a business. And there's certain positions that you approach differently because they're unique and rare positions where you just can't find that in that transfer portal market, if you will.
And the portal market is ever-changing, moves fast. So when Crow and Kaler come back, yes.
No question. Obviously, it's one of those when you're talking about that position, playing in the trenches with that kind of experience, that's a no-brainer. So very easy yes, as fast as I could get yes out of my mouth. It was a no-brainer decision, and then it was a matter of those guys attacking it. They had already begun the process of dropping some weight from post-playing days. So awesome to see them jump right back in with Coach Winger, his staff, having a guy that is running that program in the trenches. He knows a thing or two about that as well. So those guys have done a great job coming back in, getting their weight back where it needs to be, and having that same type of work ethic that they've always had on the field and in the weight room.
Moving over to the defensive side, Coach Knowles, brand new to Ball State football. He's been in the MAC before. He knows what it takes to win at this league. He knows what it takes to win at basically every level. Coach, what have you seen from Jeff Knowles from a defensive coordinator standpoint that has you confident in that group?
Well, first of all, I had so much respect for Jeff back when he was a defensive coordinator at Northern Illinois. We played them. Obviously they won the MAC championship in 2018. Rod Carey and his staff at that time went to Temple. Jeff was the defensive coordinator at Temple there. So I've already, had a ton of respect for Jeff and the way that his defense played when we faced them at Northern Illinois. Man, you knew you were going to get their best shot. You knew they were going to be disciplined. You knew they were going to be tough. You knew they were going to have high motor guys that played the game the right way. So after seeing what he's done the last 2 years at Butler, which is certainly, they have some challenges in terms of recruiting and who they're able to get in, but what he's done at Butler the last 2 years truly has been remarkable. And so, when I reached out to him and asked of his interest in the defensive coordinator position here, really just kind of escalated pretty quickly from there. And he's come in. He knows what this conference is all about. He knows what it looks like week in, week out. He knows how competitive it is. He knows what the recruiting landscape looks like. And he's really come in here and he's just kind of hit the ground running. And we've been playing good defensive football. Coach Stockton did such a good job, and he departed there for Boise State. So Jeff Knowles has done a great job in here. We had some staff changes there defensively, done a great job, and he's heavily involved in that process. When we interview defensive coaches, it's got to be a comfort level for him and what he's looking for. So I very much empower him to be heavily involved in those decisions. So a lot of moving parts there defensively, but again, it's all come together. It's all coming together. We still have work to do, but certainly like where we're at.
Lots of moving pieces in terms of athletes on the field as well, not just in the coaching staff for Jeff Knowles in this group, but how have you seen this new look defense kind of come together with so many new faces?
Yeah, and one of the biggest things we had to attack defensively in recruiting was the defensive line group. We lost a lot of guys to graduation. We lost 2 young men to the transfer portal. So to bring 5 guys in from the transfer portal at defensive line, guys that have played a lot of football, a lot of snaps, some guys that are from lower levels, and obviously, we had some guys too, like Kai Montgomery, who was a national recruit out of Pike High School in Indianapolis, went to Missouri. He transferred here, still got some years to play there. So Coach Knowles and the defensive staff and our recruiting staff really did an awesome job just pounding the pavement, working the phones, doing a great job building relationships, doing a great job of background checks on character, making sure we know exactly what we're getting. But make no mistake, just watching those guys come in here and where we're at with that defensive line unit right now, man, I'm excited because there was a point in time I was not sleeping very good in the offseason, as we were grinding and working through the transfer portal, trying to add some key pieces here. But I really like where we're at right now, and what those young men have done since they've got here in training camp has been awesome.
A lot of questions surrounding what Kyle Kelly is up to on the defensive end. How have you seen him embrace his new role?
To his credit, obviously that's not an easy conversation. Here's a guy that's been competing at the quarterback position, but at the end of spring practice, thought it would be, it's really important nowadays with the portal to be transparent and open and honest. So, just had a great conversation with Kyle and said if we were going to start tomorrow, Caden would be the starter. I know his desire to be on the field every down. He wants to be an every down player. He doesn't want to be, just a role player and come in for a package on offense there. So the only way really to get that done is, and I wouldn't have made the move or wouldn't ask Kyle about making the move to playing corner if I didn't feel like if I hadn't, first of all, seen guys that were, similar to his type of skill set. You think about the A.J. Uzademas, you think about the Antonio Phillips, you think about the Nick Joneses of the world, guys with that kind of size that, all had a similar type background, if you will, in high school. And so Kyle jumped in with both feet. Obviously, he had put his name out there, wanted to test the waters, if you will, in the portal to see what was out there. But when he had a conversation saying he wanted to come back, he was all in on the move. He's done a great job. It's still a work in progress. We still got some time before, the first game of the season. So he's just working at it every day. It's different in terms of the techniques. Now you're playing going backwards as opposed to going forward. So a lot that goes into it. Coach Perkins, our corners coach, who's in his first year on our staff, has done a great job working with him. It's a lot of competition too in that room, which is what you want. So he's just going to keep taking it one day at a time here and keep grinding and listen, his attitude and the way he's approached, that transition has been really awesome.
Coach, before we let you go here on This Week in Ball State Sports, Team 100 this year, I know you've talked about it throughout Media Day and leading up to training camp and during training camp, but when you have a chance to sit back and think about 99 years of Ball State football and then September 7th opens up that 100th year, how does your experience, your time at Ball State as a player and a coach help you feel like you're a huge part of this 100 years?
Yeah, I'm obviously it's kind of pinch yourself to think back. Wow, that's pretty cool to think this is the 100th year of Ball State football. I love Ball State, through and through. Every second I've been here, whether it was a student athlete or now in my role as a coach. I think Ball State is the best decision, best thing that's happened to me in my life aside from my family. And so just try to cherish every day that we have. This is a great opportunity to take the field as Team 100 and create great memories. And, once you think about that, you got to dial it back in and narrow your focus on just taking control on the things that we can, which is just the one day at a time approach. Let's make sure we have a great day today. Game planning, make sure we have a great day today. Putting a practice together tomorrow to give our guys a chance to go out and get better. And they're just trying to keep it that simple, and then in the big picture, let's not get caught up in thinking about what if, man, that'd be awesome to accomplish something great as Team 100. Well, yeah, it still goes back to just keeping the focus narrow, and let's just attack each day that we got and make the most of each day we got. And then if we do that, then we can expect the results to line up the way that we want them to.
Well, Mike, really excited for the 100th season of Ball State football. Appreciate you joining us on the first week of the podcast. We'll talk to you every week all season long, but thank you as always.
Appreciate you, Mick. Keep up the great work, man. Looking forward to having a great year and look forward to many, many Mondays together.
Thanks for listening to This Week in Ball State Sports, presented by Gainbridge. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Gainbridge Ball State Cardinals Sports Network.